Have you ever noticed yourself holding back at meetings? Like you have this idea, but that key moment comes up and you just find yourself hesitating and you're not speaking as powerfully as you want. Or like, you have that idea, but you rehearse it. Like you're not ready just to throw it out there. So you start like finding the perfect words in your mind and rehearsing it in your mind. But then so many times, God, when I used to do this, the moment would be gone. Like the conversation would shift, the window would open, or worse yet, oh, this is one I hated. Somebody else would say my idea and they would get all the credit for it. And I had it like 30 seconds ago, but I just didn't have the courage in that moment or the right words in my mind to raise my hand or to, take that spotlight. Or the other scenario, oh, this one sucks too, is that you finally do deliver it. Like you've rehearsed those words, you move the conversation back to that topic, and then you finally do say that idea. But if you're really honest with yourself, you're kind of stiff when you deliver it. You feel like your heart is like beating, blum, 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 your tension, and you're not. It doesn't come out as smooth or as powerfully as you hoped, and perhaps the reception isn't what you hoped. And of course, man, if you're like me, when I used to do that, I would spin about it afterwards, and I'd be like, oh, like if only I'd said it with these words, or if I only, God, I was just so nervous. I can't believe, if only if I'd just been calmer, and I would just replay that scene over and over in my mind afterwards, and it was horrible, right? So this is something I want you to know. If you've experienced this, well, number one is you're not alone, right? I was just reading a survey that came out of the UK from the job, it's called a firm called JobSite. They interviewed over 2,000 people. It's kind of like their Indeed, right? And they found that public speaking was the number one fear that people have. 67% of people actually identified it. The number two fear, interestingly, was heights, but fear was even more than the fear of heights. 67% named it as their number one fear, right? And they went even bigger, right? This fear of public speaking, which is really about a fear of judgment and rejection, went even deeper. Like, why does this matter? Well, that same survey found that 1 in 3 employees, 39%, would reject their dream job if it required facing their biggest fear, which was the fear of speaking. So think about that. Like that fear of speaking consciously and unconsciously is so big, we're willing to push away our dream jobs just because of that fear. Now, maybe you're not consciously thinking to yourself, well, that's not me, but think about it this way. It shows up with interviews, I'm just not good at interviewing. And man, if I tried to interview for that next level director position, for example, and we find reasons to not apply, right? We're rejecting that dream job. Or it could be just belief, I'm just not good at selling myself, right? I was talking to a dentist the other day, and he's like, I'm just not good at selling myself. I can't put myself out there. And that was making it harder for him he was rejecting his dream job of owning his own practice, right? Like, I'll just work for somebody else. And in that way, he was playing small. Or another one, I see this all the time in the executives I coach, is again the speaking up at meetings thing, that fear of judgment, that rejection, the imposter syndrome. And so they wind up, not advancing as quickly as they could in their career. So this way, again, all these ways we're giving the Heisman to our dreams. And, so if you want to understand this and break out of these patterns, let's break down the pattern. So there's the action, which is not speaking up. Now, what creates action? Action comes from our thoughts, right? From what we think is what we create, what we do, what we speak, right? We have to have the thoughts before they can become words. So what are the thoughts that get in the way of us speaking, right? Because real lasting change is a subtractive process. We got to isolate what's getting in the way. So here's are the thoughts that get in the way. What will others think of me? Why should they listen to me? And what if they don't like my idea? Those types of thoughts, right? And so the way we try to mitigate those thoughts is we over-prepare, we try to control, we rehearse in our mind, or like even if it's not spoken, like in emails, or how many times have you reread an email like multiple times before sending it, just reading it and rereading it and rereading it? How maddening, what a waste of time, right? So that's how we use control to mitigate our fears, right? So because what really is causing this, where do our thoughts come from? They come from emotions, because emotions drive thoughts, thoughts drive actions, and actions create results, the world that we live in, right? So if we really want to understand this, we got to swim all the way upstream, because the action was driven by thoughts, and thoughts are driven by emotions. Let's talk about that fear, right? And that fear is primal. That fear of judgment and rejection is primal. It's hardwired into us biologically, neurologically. I mean, humans, we are a pack animal, right? We are just like monkeys and just like, dogs in the wild, right? We are packs. And to be rejected by the pack feels unsafe. And so therefore we rehearse in our mind, and we play small, and we alter ourselves, and we become someone else and act like someone else that's not our authentic self, so for that acceptance. And so what that looks like in reality, the impacts of this are huge, because not only are we beating ourselves up, if we're playing in our mind, which all feels crappy, we then also wind up staying in jobs that don't serve us, or we show up to that job, even if it's a job we really like and is well suited for us. We show up fearful, we show up hesitant, we show up full of that imposter syndrome. And that, takes that fulfillment and that joy out of the work and replaces it with fear, because when we operate with fear rather than joy, the fulfillment disappears. It doesn't feel good, right? So what do we do about this? As a coach, I'm very solution oriented, right? So the work I have found to be most helpful is if you've been following my channel, you hear me say this about quite often, is that we bring our outdoor self to work. We bring the outdoor identity, that way of being that we tap into when we're doing our favorite outdoor activities, biking, hiking, skiing, climbing. I mean, you name it, right? Running. And through that, I can access another way of aligning our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions. So we're in a state of flow where it's much easier to just say those things and to be authentic. Now, that's a topic I go deeply in other videos, so I'm not going to get very granular in this one. But the key, again, is to get your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions all in alignment, just like you do in the outdoors. Because when I'm on my mountain bike, for example, my emotion is joy, right? Like, is excitement, is like, even if it's a hard trail, for me, I like hard trails, techie, rocky, rooty, right? The harder the better, right? The more I'm sweating, the better. The more I'm like, having to manipulate my bike and manual over this rock and nail this one little slot with my front tire, like the more excited I get. So excitement and energy and a belief that I trust in myself leads to thoughts of, I can do this. Just put my tire right there. This is going to be fun. Those are all thoughts. And from those emotions and thoughts, what kind of action do I take? I mean, I shred black diamonds and double black diamonds, and I really enjoy it. And if I can't get through like a rock garden, I'll wheel my bike up and I'll go try that rock garden again. Because what propels me through these difficult challenges is that the momentum of my thoughts and my emotions being in alignment. So it's funny though, even though I've spent 16 years really bringing the outdoor side of me into work and everyday life, and this is something I talk about in my fear, judgment, and rejection. So my whole TED talk is about. And I've confronted that fear so many times, my own fear of speaking. It's not like I'm immune to this, right? It's not like, oh, I'm magically cured, right? It's something a battle I choose to refight again and again. Because right now, here I am speaking, recording this video for you. And to be honest, I had some resistance come up for me about this just the other day. I was talking to a fellow coach of mine. She's a vocal coach, helps singers, right? Amazing. And she was talking about, she did for herself a 90-day challenge where she's like, I'm going to speak every day. I'm just going to go on Facebook Live and YouTube and hit all my channels. And she's like, it was really scary for me. And here she's literally been an opera singer. She's performed in huge concert halls all around the world. And she's like, just speaking into the camera was kind of scary for me. And I just, as a listener, I was like, yeah, that's scary for me too. I noticed a little initial resistance within myself as she challenged me to take on the 90-day challenge. And I was like, my gut reaction was, woo, right? But then I took a moment and I pictured myself on my mountain bike about to like hit a big drop, like out in Grand Junction, Colorado, like I just did 2 weeks ago with a buddy. I was a little bit nervous before I hit that drop, but I did it anyways. And I was so pumped. And it was like the highlight of my whole riding weekend. It was even, riding in Fruita and Junction, all that stuff. And think about your favorite outdoor experiences and how many times, when we do it scared, but we do it anyway. That's literally how proud we are. And that was a topic I just spoke about yesterday on my coaching call with my group of like a dozen guys. We're all sharing stories of doing it scared, right? And so I decided, heck yeah, I'm going to just drop in and hit record. So I'll be broadcasting every day. Probably take a few days off for Thanksgiving with the family, but for the next 90 days, I'm all in. Tune in. I got a lot to share with you guys. And make sure you hit the like button, share this with your friends. We can absolutely help you not just confront your fear of speaking, that draining feeling you're having at work, that all these fears that are draining your energy from work. We got a lot more topics to hit. So very excited. Cue in, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.